everyone, and welcome to today's episode. We're going to be talking about The Christmas Ring by Karen Kingsbury. So, this one is a contemporary romance, it's a short novel, and it fits within the Christian fiction category. And it's a standalone story that has been made into a movie, which is really fun. So, why did I want to read this one? Well, I've enjoyed reading Karen's books in the past, and I've been reading them for a few decades, and I was intrigued by the story premise for this one. And I'm also one of those people that prefers to read the book before I watch a movie. So the movie hasn't been released in Australia, but I do plan to watch it when it has been released. So let's talk about the book. The Christmas Ring by Karen Kingsbury is set in Columbus in Georgia, and we have quite a few romance tropes in this story. So we have some military connections with some of the characters. We have a single mum who's our leading lady, and she's also a widow. Her husband passed away and while he was serving, and he was a medic in the military. We have our main characters that are in their early 40s, so it's a midlife romance, which is fun. We have second chances and friends to more tropes that are in the story. And we have a really intriguing mystery related to a family heirloom, which, as you probably guessed by the title, is the Christmas ring. And I'll get to that in a minute. We also have some antique stores and some fun things connected to antiques in the story. And this one definitely has Hallmark vibes in terms of how the story plays out. It's a very light and fun romance. And I'm really looking forward to seeing the movie because I can see how the story would just play out so beautifully on the big screen. So, anyway, let's talk about the first line in the book, which is this one. In the dark of night and against the sound of enemy fire, the moment he jumped, rushing wind hit Bill Bailey square in the face. So you're probably wondering how this is connecting to Columbus, Georgia, but we're actually going back into the past in chapter one. So it's 1944, we're in France, and it's on D-Day. So it's just before the war is over in Europe that's been announced. So our main character in this point of time is actually our leading lady's great-grandfather. And he has just parachuted out of a plane into enemy territory, and there's all sorts of stuff going on. And he finds this ring on the ground in France. And that's how the ring comes into the story. And so that brings us to our leading lady. And chapter two is actually 4 years ago in the past. And I'll get to that in a minute, but I'll introduce you to Vanessa. So she's in her early 40s, although she would be late 30s in chapter two, which I'm about to talk about. And as I said, her husband served in the military and he was a medic and very sadly passed away while on active duty. And that only happened 4 months before this particular chapter starts, which is 4 years in the past. So I'll try and keep the timeline in order as I go through this. And so she has a daughter, and the daughter is 14 at the time, although once we hit chapter three, she'll be 18 and going to college. And our leading lady, Vanessa, is financially independent. Her husband and a family inheritance has left her in a very comfortable financial situation, which means that she's able to work as a volunteer, and her passion is volunteering for an organisation that supports military families, which was a really fascinating part of the story that I enjoyed. So anyway, if we go into chapter two, we're 4 years in the past, and she's gone on a trip with her daughter. They're in Colorado for Christmas and they're skiing. And so they're having a lovely time in Colorado, except for one little glitch. And it's not really, actually, it's a big disaster. It's not a little glitch in that Vanessa loses the ring. So it's a ruby ring with diamonds around it. And it hasn't been valued as being worth a lot of money, but it's got significant sentimental value in the family. So her great grandfather found the ring in France on D-Day and gave it to her great grandmother, who then passed it down to her grandmother, who then passed it down to Vanessa's mother. And currently, Vanessa has the ring, and the plan is to pass it down to her daughter, which would be the fifth generation of having this ring. So it's incredibly sentimental. And they are absolutely devastated because Vanessa and her daughter are searching everywhere in Colorado and they just cannot find this ring. But at the same time, Vanessa is not giving up and she's praying that the Lord will find this ring and return it to her at some point in time. And she will keep praying as the story progresses. So I'll get to that in a sec. So now we're going to move to the present day in chapter 3. And I'm going to introduce you to our hero. So his name is Ben, and he's a widower. He lost his wife. She passed away about 8 years, I think, earlier. So he's been a widower for a while, and sadly, they weren't able to have children, which he's found very difficult. And so he works for a family business. So he's in an antique store that his parents set up, and he runs that. And where he's also in Georgia, and he happens to be en route to where Vanessa's daughter will be going to college. So as we start chapter 3 and we go into the present day, Vanessa's basically becoming an empty nester. Her daughter's moving on campus, and she's basically set her daughter up at college, is driving back, and she does a detour and discovers this antique store, because every time she goes past an antique store, she stops and has a look because she's desperate to find this ring, and she's actually got a reward out for anyone who can give her information to return it as well. That's how much it means to her. So that brings us to the meet cute, which is absolutely adorable. It's very cute. They're very sweet, these two, the way they meet, and it was really fun, and you could see the attraction was there, even though for a whole bunch of reasons neither of them were thinking about relationships or romance at all. And they really did bond over Vanessa's quest to find this ring. And Ben became invested in assisting her in terms of hunting around antique stores, etc., to find it, because that's obviously his job, because he works with antiques. And they had a common interest with antiques as well, which they enjoyed. So in this story, we have a few problems. We've got both of our main characters who've lost their spouses and have been going through a grief process in terms of dealing with that, as has Vanessa's daughter, of course, with losing her father. So we have these issues that will need to be overcome before either of them are ready to be in a place to have a relationship. We also have the issue of long distance, because they live a couple of hours away from each other. The college campus is north of Atlanta, I believe, if I've got my geography right, from where Columbus is. So there's a bit of a hike to see each other. So their friendship really kicks off talking on the phone and online, and that, rather than seeing each other in person. And of course, if we have a teenage daughter, we have complicated relationships, and mother daughter relationships are never simple. And that's explored in the story as well. And this missing ring, it really does drive a lot of what happens in the story as well. And that was really fun, because Vanessa's praying for a miracle that this ring will be returned to her. And I really did enjoy this story. It was such a lovely, fun read. It was so easy to read. I was hooked in from the start. I read it within 24 hours. It was one of those light and enjoyable stories that I really appreciated. And I love reading these feel-good Christmas stories as well, where you basically close the book with a smile on your face, thinking, I'm really glad that I journeyed with the characters in this book. And the characters were fun, and there were some very quirky side characters as well that we come across in this story. And it's a sweet romance with those second chances and friends to more. And the way those tropes combine together is really fun as well. And I love the Christmas setting in Columbus, in Georgia, and how the volunteering for the military families that Vanessa did, seeing what was going on with that in the story was really fun. And visiting antique stores and searching for the ring. And as I said, there were complications with Vanessa being an empty nester and transitioning to being on her own, and what does that actually mean? There was a lot going on for her, as well as her daughter, in terms of transitioning to college too. And the mystery was just so fun. And I really loved how the mystery resolved in the story. I'm not saying any more because I'm not giving away spoilers, but it was really fun to see it all work out. And I appreciated how it tied into the romance as well. So this one I would describe as having strong faith elements, and that won't surprise you if you're a Karen Kingsbury fan, because it has all her trademark, strong, solid faith content in the stories that I really enjoy. And we see the characters living out their faith. We see them praying. We see them reading the Bible. We see their relationship with God on the page, which I really liked. And the Christmas setting, of course, we have the gospel message in the story. And the story also has some forgiveness themes that need to be addressed by some of the characters, which I really appreciated as well. And my favorite book quote from the story is this one. Treasures are rare and never easy to find. So, this quote is from Ben's dad. He's the one who says this, and they're at the antique store because their job is effectively to find treasures. And they never quite know when they come across something how valuable it is and how much money it's worth. And his dad, in particular, is always looking for the treasure that will get him the big bucks so he can do a trip to Italy that he's wanted to do forever and ever. And sadly, his wife passed away before she could go with him. But he still has this dream of traveling overseas and finding that antique item that will be worth enough money to pay for a trip overseas. But at the same time, this quote's also talking about people and how there's treasure in finding that rare person who is the one. And so that ties into the romance. And when Ben's hearing this, he's thinking about Vanessa being the treasure that he's found. And he never expected, after losing his wife, to find someone he could fall in love with. So that was lovely the way those second chances story elements played out. And so the impact on me, there were lots of smiles. It was a really fun story that I enjoyed reading. And at the same time, there were some very poignant moments because we have characters that have emotional baggage that they needed to deal with. And they are all struggling with grief and loss in some way, shape, or form as well. So there was some things, some big stuff that had happened in the past and some big issues to deal with and work through. And I really appreciated how we see the characters working through these issues with God, and we're seeing their relationship with God on the page. That was really good, and I appreciated that. So, in summary, I would recommend The Christmas Ring to readers who like fun and heartwarming Christmas romances because you get all the feels with this one. If you like second chances and friends to more romances, if you like your contemporary romances to include mother-daughter relationships that have a few hiccups and complications, you'll like this one. And if you like your contemporary romances to have a mystery in the story, and this one's a really fun mystery with The Christmas Ring, then you'll like this one. And if you like contemporary romances that have military connections, you'll like this one. And if you like your contemporary romances to have strong faith elements that are on the page, but at the same time, they're not preachy, they're very organic to the story, and they include forgiveness themes, then you'll like this one as well. Thanks for joining me today. Does The Christmas Ring sound like a book that you'd like to read? Have you read it? What did you think? Or have you seen the movie? You can let me know. If you're listening on the podcast, you can send me a text via a link in the show notes. If you're watching at YouTube, you can like the episode at YouTube and leave a comment at YouTube. And you can also email me at my website where I have a contact form, and you'll find that at narelleatkins.com. And if you've enjoyed this episode, please subscribe. And you can do that at your favorite podcasting app or at YouTube, and then you'll get a notification of when my next episode drops. And also, if you've enjoyed this episode, please share the link with a friend, especially a friend who enjoys reading Christmas romances, and also a friend who you think would enjoy reading Karen Kingsbury's books. Thanks for tuning in, and see you next time.